Captain's Log, Subdate 200629.4. What's a temporal incursion? I only ask because I appear to have a button labelled that on my dashboard, and I'm a tad confused. So I have attempted to record this twice, and in both cases I realised it lacked any discernible structure, so my points were very hard to convey, because I'd made the decision when I tried to record this not to use any name of any creator involved in cancel culture. There's a reason for this, by the way, so I'm going to start with the premise. I do not support cancelling, and will not indulge in the what-if nonsense, as my view on cancelling a creator remains no regardless, and what if is speculation alone. Granted, I do a fair amount of that in my content, but this one is a bit different. Using names means I then have to go into the individual instance and case surrounding that, which, considering some of the names involved, gets incredibly murky very, very fast. And I won't be drawn on that. Another thing we have to accept for this is, does context matter? In any of the cases where a creator has been threatened with cancellation, does context matter? This seems to be subjective with a number of people. For me, context always matters. Always. Because only with context do we have a full understanding, or are we able to obtain a full understanding. That doesn't mean when we have the full context we may then just decide, in all cases, they're innocent. No, it just means we have a better understanding and appreciation of what motivated somebody to do something in the past that by today's standards is not considered to a rather large crowd of very vocal people to be even remotely acceptable. Whether that be because someone has used the N-word, and that person being someone themselves who is white. Quite a lot of white creators have used that word, but because of the power people give that word, it becomes even more taboo as time goes by, although it can also be argued because of the way it's treated, it is becoming watered down. Whether it be because of creepy content they have produced in the past with a relative discussing subjects you should not be discussing with a child, which led to some rather interesting fallout. Whether it be because you have a girlfriend that has been accused of anti-Semitism, or because you are holding something over a lot of creators' heads and using it to, air quotes, manipulate them. It all depends on the circumstance of the creator. But my point of cancellation remains no regardless. So what is cancel culture? We need to know this regardless. And I know I've alluded to certain instances, yes, but I'm still not going to use names, because seriously, there is a lot more to them and I don't have all the time in the world to decompress them. Cancel culture is where somebody has done something, past or present, and it has then irked enough people that they want to effectively boycott that person, because they can't think of another way to remove them from limelight, popularity, relevancy, destroy that person's brand, perhaps if they have one. This has happened to not just YouTubers, but actors, actresses, musicians, basically anyone in the public eye. I'm sure it's happened for people who are not in the public eye. Usually it's a popularity contest within friendship groups. The person at the bottom, usually the slimiest, or the geek, has been determined to be useless, be gone, you are cancelled. The point is, cancel culture is where somebody reacts to one thing someone has done, and it's a boycott. Someone's going to tell me I'm not educated on this. I've dumbed it down on purpose, okay? Thank you. Again, I don't have all the time in the world to go into this, and it's how it looks to me as somebody who doesn't get involved in any of it. So people want to boycott, and it leads to a usual set of events. These events are somewhat cliché at this point. Either the person being cancelled holds their ground and stays true, rides it out and somehow comes out the other side, or, and this is the one I'm not overly fond of, but it does lead down a more entertaining path, they instead decide to put out a YouTube apology. I call it a YouTube apology because an apology is vastly different to a YouTube apology, because an apology contains two words, I'm sorry. YouTube apologies contain those two words, surrounded by thousands of words of bumf and devaluing. It is a meme. A very good meme, because it's cliche, but still hilarious. A YouTube apology is also known for not just having all of that extra bumf, but also self-imposed consequences and pointless explanations which don't actually help anyone. Say you shot a video with your cousin talking about very inappropriate subjects. In the apology, you then go and say you've spoken to them now in current year. Prove it. Have them speak instead. Not that it helps, I'm sure people still don't care regardless. But other people then decide the best way to make sure their brand is secure is to delete all of the videos in question. Possibly anything associated with anything extra you've ever done, just to be safe. You shouldn't delete your videos, just accept accountability, take responsibility and move on. It's far less damaging. But what do I know? I'm just a cartoon. This is the more interesting and entertaining aspect of cancelling reactions, because people do everything they can to hide what they've done. That is what we like to call poor decisions. Those poor decisions hurt you more in the long run because people then only have the out-of-context clips. Those out-of-context clips damage you because you've removed the full picture, along with any other content. People seem to also forget where we were back in, let's say, 2006 and 2007. What content creators did when YouTube first started to what content creators do now. What influenced a lot of creators now did not influence them then. Because back then, they were just novel ideas, i.e. YouTube channels. It wasn't long ago they were able to earn money from it. Which is when a lot of creators who were themselves, let's say, edgy, changed it up. Yes, I'm going to talk about context now. The point is, a lot of those safe channels now, you know, the ones that manufacture drama within a circle of creators and basically take it in turns by picking short straws to be the butt of the cancellation, to drum up more interest and relevancy. Yeah, bit predictable. They then, back in 2007-8, whenever they started, were just edgy, making stupid jokes and really bad comedy skits and interactions because they weren't treating this as a brand. They weren't treating this as something they could manufacture into a franchise, a job. For a lot of creators who were even popular then, this wasn't a job. It was just an outlet. Not that it matters to a lot of people, but I do understand why a lot of people were the way they were. Although I will say, if you yourself claim to be sensitive, but your past shows you to be anything but, it might be a better idea if you just stop telling everyone you're sensitive, because no one believes you. They believe you've made some big mistakes. Mistakes that look borderline criminal. And it might be a better idea instead to just take responsibility. Because truth be told, how does one deal with someone who's being cancelled for, let's say, what I've just said then? Do you take it to the police? Because that seems natural. I'm not being sarcastic when I say that. If you believe they've committed a criminal act, you take it to the police. If that creator has breached the YouTube's terms of service, then you flag the video for breaching the YouTube's terms of service and community guidelines. Although this is where the problem does also arise. With that kind of content and the size of that creator, it is almost impossible to get them held responsible by YouTube, because YouTube have their little bubble of creators that, and this might be a tinfoil hat moment, but as a significantly smaller channel, it is what I've observed over the 5 years I've been here. There is an echelon of creators who have safe seats. They are safe regardless, not just because they're linked up with an MCN, but also because of the size of their channel and the pull they have, and that's a bit tragic. So I can understand, and this might in fact be an additional factor why people would rather cancel instead. Because truth be told, what can any person outside do to prevent someone from making these mistakes again? But then, are they mistakes in the first place? You have to then look at the individual instance and determine whether or not the person involved has made a mistake by the standards present when they made the video. have you noticed, even though I've not referenced anyone, how murky this subject gets? Because it feels murky. It feels really difficult to talk about. Because in truth, without using names, without going into the individual case, it's actually quite difficult. The premise still remains. I don't support cancelling, but I do support consequences. But how one administers a consequence is a mystery. And I also believe context will always matter. That does not mean that person, even with context, is innocent. I've said that already, but I feel like I have to restate it. But context really does matter, because in a lot of the cases where people are bringing forth information, they're bringing forth screenshots of tweets which can be manipulated, clips of videos not providing the full context. Again, doesn't prove innocence, but context will always matter. I think I've made my point, but I've drivelled on for quite a long time. Sorry about that, but I really don't want to be drawn in on cases because they are so hot and tense. And honestly, I have a headache just talking about this. I really don't want to be stricken with the sickness by talking about all the people involved in all the horrible things that are currently happening on this site, and how it will inevitably negatively impact on everyone else, as it always bloody does. When one of these big creators makes a colossal screw-up, who actually pays the price? Is it the person with 20 million subs who loses a few 100,000? Or is it all the smaller YouTubers who are struggling to get monetized or being demonetized because the rules are changing to adapt to these manipulative... Gonna stop there before I swear. Before I finish, there's a new video on Moistonian Live, and I will be streaming on Omegon Place tonight some Euro Truck Simulator 2. If I don't see you there, have a lovely Monday. Thank you all for listening.